Go ahead. Okay. Good afternoon, guys. How are you all doing? Good? All right, I need to hear 10,000 soldiers of the Lord, of the army of the Lord in here. Good afternoon, guys. Wonderful, wonderful. And this afternoon we are here for AY. Of course, this afternoon we'll be speaking about, what will we be speaking about? We are talking about families for this month, and it's called Family Matters. But what are we talking about today in particular? We're talking about finances. I thought we would be happier to talk about finances. Who likes finances? Anybody? I like finances. I love finances instead. I love it too much, so that's why it's far from me. You know, things you love, you need to keep, a distance sometimes. So, of course, we need to start this afternoon with a word of prayer. Can those in the congregation please stand as we start with a word of prayer this afternoon? Oh, dear ever-loving Father, thank you for bringing us here this afternoon for once again another wonderful discussion that we can have based on family finances. We know that the family is what you instituted, and please guide us in the way that we would discuss this afternoon for those online and those here in person, and even those who may be in the discussion, to continue to learn more and more about the institution that you would have created, which is the family. Continue to guide, protect all the families who are listening, and even those who may not be on just as yet. Please be with us as we go throughout this afternoon's program. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. You all may have your seats. And thank you once again for joining. And of course, for those who are online, you can say good afternoon, say hello. And of course, you will have the time to send in your questions as well. If you can't remember your questions, as I always do, I would write it down somewhere. Or you can just put it in the chat one time. And we have persons monitoring the YouTube chat so that they can ask the questions on your behalf if you would like that done. So at this point in time, you'll have the AY aim, motto, and pledge. I apologize to those in congregation. I would be asking you guys to stand once more. We will do another program on exercise, since I guess you all are doing that as well. So of course, we'll start off with the AY aim, the Advent message to the Advent message to all the world in my generation. Motto: for the love of Christ compels me. Pledge: present arms. Loving the Lord Jesus, I promise to take an active work in the youth society of the church, doing all I can to help others and to finish the work of the gospel in all the world. Order arms. You all may have your seat finally. At this point in time, I'll be asking the coordinator of this afternoon's program, Ms. Jasmine, to speak to you now. Thank you, guys.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to see your smiling faces in the congregation. And I'm imagining I'm seeing some smiling faces at home. So welcome again to our program on finances. This program was simply put together for our youths to really get an idea of how some of our fellow members in church, or some of the adults, the older adults or the more experienced adults, because, manage their money and the decisions they may make, what mistakes they would have made in the past, and just to give each and every one of us some new and fresh ideas. Because as youth, I think we all need help financially. Right about now, I will be doing a devotion. So this devotion is titled Time and Money. As with everything in our lives, our ability to live in the fullness that God has for us has all to do with our focus. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to be abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:12-13. As with everything in our lives, our ability to live in the fullness that God has for us has all to do with our focus. The world tells us that we must concentrate on things such as money, success, and on protecting all that we are able to attain, so possessions. At no matter the cost. The world tells us the insidious lie that who we are and what we have is never enough. In Deuteronomy 6:5, we discover where God tells us to put our focus. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. In its countercultural way, this command seems to totally ignore our earthly needs. The talk to manage our lives, our time, and our money is strong. After all, if we don't, who will? We are called to be good stewards of all that we are given. That stewardship is lived out in recognizing God as the source of all good gifts. Taking those gifts, whether meager or much, giving thanks, and then offering those gifts in his response to his prompting in our hearts. When a couple can come to a place of letting the Lord manage their lives rather than letting their lives manage them, there comes a deep and accurate sense of having enough. In need or in plenty, rushed or relaxed, hungry or well-fed, through him and in him, we find that godliness with contentment is great gain. 1 Timothy 6:6. Father, the world is so loud as it clamors for our hearts. It is a noise of confusion that lures us out of living in you as we frantically attempt to manage each moment. Give us the grace to focus on your glory and the know-how on how to be content no matter what. So this simple devotion really spoke about not putting our possessions, and in this case we'll call it our money, our finances, over God. Because any money that we have, it's as a result of God's great blessings, showers of blessings. So as I close, I would just like to remind our young people, not to fret over anything, not to want for anything, because as God sees about the flowers, he sees about the crows, so too will he see about you. So thank you. We will now be having our lovely special music via our brother Terry Reed.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes you have to speak a word over yourself, and sometimes you have to speak a victory during the test. No matter how you feel, speak the word and you would be healed. Speak over yourself, encourage yourself in the Lord. Oh, sometimes you and sometimes you have to speak victory. Oh, no matter how you feel, speak the word and you would be healed. Speak over yourself in the Lord. Oh, sometimes you have to speak a word over yourself. Depression is all around, but remember God is a present help. The enemies created walls, but remember giants, they do fall. Speak over yourself. Speak over your health in the Lord. So as I minister to you, oh, I minister to myself. Life can hurt you so, but remember God is a present help. So no matter how you feel, speak the word and you would be healed. Oh, you gotta speak over yourself. You gotta pat yourself on the back sometimes. Sometimes you gotta speak victory into your own life. Just remember, with God, you can be encouraged. So stand up and say, I'm encouraged. Stand up and say, I'm encouraged. I can do it. I can make it with God. I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged. Oh, I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged. Oh, be encouraged. Tell your neighbor, tell your friend, tell your brother, tell the doctor, tell the banker, tell the devil, I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged. Oh, yeah. I'm encouraged. Yeah, I'm encouraged. Yeah. Speak over yourself. Speak over your health in the Lord.
Ooh, I don't know about you all, but I know I am truly encouraged. And I am encouraged to manage my money. I am encouraged to make better financial decisions. I am encouraged. So right about now, we're going to go into the meat of the matter, the part you all came here for, which is our lovely discussion. So as I introduce our panelists, I ask you all to, come up and do take your respective seats. So our moderator for this evening is Sister Sherry Lynn Legal. She has been a member of the D'Abadie Seventh-Day Church for the past 30 years, right? She currently works as the interim dean at the School of Business and Entrepreneurship at our dear USC. She is an avid pianist, singer, and author, and her new book is entitled 10 Important Life Decisions All Millennials Need to Make. So guys, do feel free to read Sister Legal's book, a wonderful read, and as a millennial myself, I will be having a read at it. I'll now be introducing our first couple of the evening, and this is brother and sister Julian. They are members of the Maloney Estate Church, and they have been married for the past 21 years. Brother Julian is employed as a police officer while Sister Julian is a primary school teacher. Both are past family life leaders at the Maloney SDA Church. I might add, Brother Julian is they are both avid supporters of our AY program, and we love them for that. Our final couple are the St. Hills. Jaden St. Hill is a young entrepreneur and missionary whose aim is to work for God in whatever way, wherever and whenever he can. He enjoys singing and learning the piano, amongst other things, including Christian apologetics. And I don't know if Brother St. Hill could tell us what is Christian apologetics. I'm not sure if it's me alone that's not familiar with it. His partner in ministry, Karina St. Hill, is a sociologist and enjoys working for the Lord in the audiovisual departments and wherever she is called to serve. She likes graphic design and playing sports, favorites being cricket and football. Together, they desire to influence the world around them for Jesus. Isn't that lovely, guys? So right about now, I'm just going to put you guys over to our dear moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Jasmine, and good evening to everyone online and to those who are sitting in the audience here at D'Abadie SDA Church. It's so nice of you to be out this evening, and I have the exciting position to be the one to ask the questions. Now, I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen. That's always the best positions to be in. The one to ask the questions, but the more exciting position to be in is the ones who answer the questions. And you can take a look at their faces from wherever you are. And of course, you know, I like to talk to experienced people. Now, let me tell you all a little secret that you may not have known. Now, I'm sure you know this already, right? So I'm just going to make the assumption you don't know. Now, I am not married. I'll let that sink in for a couple of seconds. If that was important information anyway. But I am not. And when they ask me to moderate, I'm thinking, do you sure you want a single person asking married people questions? Now, there could only be one reason for that. They want to give advice to those coming behind. Well, who else you give advice to? Not for those coming behind. The best people to give advice to is those who are behind you. All right? So you can let them know that what you know and that you have learned. So in reality, I'm actually in a good place in the house because I'm listening to experienced people. And I like to listen to the experienced people, Sister St. Hill, because that means there's a lot that I could learn. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm learning. Now, if peradventure one day I do get married, now you can be attested, you are witness here this afternoon that I was on this stage in D'Abadie Seventh-Day Adventist Church and I got good advice. So in case I make mistakes, you'll see I wasn't listening to good advice. All right, you are the witness, I'll let you tell. Now, I know a little bit about these couples, just a little bit. So for the purposes of myself and for those who are listening, let's see if we can find out a little bit more about these interesting couples. So, here's my first question for them. And listen carefully, ladies and gentlemen, because the woman's answer is not always the same as the men's answers. So let's see this afternoon how the versions meet. So first we are going to ask them, how did they meet? And was it love at first sight? Listen to the versions, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to the versions. Let's start with the couple on my left. How did you meet? I want to get a ladies' version first. Sister Julian, how did you meet Brother Julian? And was it love at first sight? Now, it happened already, Sister Julian, so you can just tell us the juicy details.
All right, good evening, everyone. We met, or I should say, I saw him on a trip to Tobago. All right, he was. Was it love at first sight? No, it was not. And that's the short version.
That's the short version. Trip to Tobago. She didn't tell us anything about the trip. You know, I'll have to ask a follow-up question. But anyway, maybe Brother Julian will tell us.
I think Tasha's correct. Well, I'm actually from Tobago, so she and a friend of hers came across to Tobago, and they actually stayed next door to where I was living, and that's how I saw Natasha at first. And love at first sight, she was attractive, but not love at first sight. It was built up over time.
Oh, but no, Brother Julian, no. You said attractive. I just, my ears were perked. So how did you see the people next door, Brother Julian? Please explain to us how you know these ladies were next door.
Well, the persons next door are my cousins.
Oh.
And you saw Terry just singing there. So it's Terry's relatives in Tobago. So Tasha came up with Terry's sister. And we used to go across and play video games and stuff. And someday I went across and I saw her, nice looking lady or person. And over the next couple of days, I saw a couple other times. And we ended up speaking before I came back to Trinidad. And when I came back to Trinidad, well, then we just continued from there.
Now, I just like how married people just skip over the tense. I ended up speaking to her. I mean, like we can't just all read through the lines. I just ended up speaking to her.
Let me add a bit to that, right? So
thank you,
one
Brother Julian.
afternoon,
Yes.
I came back from playing basketball, and I was bareback, right? I was bareback, so I think that is what won over the whole thing there. But you can go on to the other couple now.
Nice. No, and these things are kind of important because sometimes young people sort of, they can be tempted to do things behind closed doors, where sometimes when we hear married couples talk about honesty, about, their experiences, it helps them to normalize that part of the process is also a spiritual process. So I appreciate you sharing that. We will just not visualize the bareback, but when she might have seen you. But clearly there's more to that story. I ended up speaking to her. I mean, who buys that story, Brother Julian? Anyway, thank you very much for sharing. That's a very interesting story. There's more. We'll see them after, brethren, for the further details. Well, let's go on to Brother and Sister Sentil. Let's start with the ladies' version first. How did you all meet?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Sister Legal. Well, we met at USC. So this is a plug for Christian education here. We met at USC. Well, Jaden messaged me on Facebook and gave me some lyrics. And then I was like, well, I attend USC. And then he was like, okay. I said, wait, I think I'm in class with your sister. And so I knew her before I knew him. And then we met up in school. And we used to hang out. He used to walk me to my vehicle. He would stay in school even when he didn't have class to make sure that I got to the vehicle safely. Sometimes, we would lime and stuff. And after that, after I completed school, we decided that, as a friendship, we could then take it to the next level. Yeah. To be in a relationship with each other.
Yes, of
right.
course,
Yes.
definitely.
So that was that.
So it wasn't necessarily love at first sight.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
And we use that term loosely, of course, but we understand the context in which
It was probably admiration.
admiration.
But yeah,
But you
not
kind of thought he was kind of cool.
yeah.
Okay.
Kind of way.
We saw that look. So what's your version, Elder Cynthia?
Well, good evening to everyone. Good evening to those who are online. She said it quite well. I messaged her, I inboxed her on Facebook. I saw this very attractive looking young lady, and being a single young man myself,
yes, sir.
a man must find a wife, and
Yes,
to
sir.
find you must look. So I messaged her and I asked her how things, and we started having conversations online. I realized she was going to the same school as I. And
Let's not, hold on.
yes,
So
because
you didn't meet her in school?
No.
Or you saw her somewhere else?
no, I saw her on Facebook.
So that
Yes.
was the first sight.
We see somebody, she's a mutual friend with somebody else on Facebook, and she's Adventist, she's good looking, so I got right in there,
So you were surfing Facebook?
Of course I was.
We have to know these details, Elder Cynthia. Those things are important.
Yes. And I wanted to know what I was dealing with. So a couple weeks into conversations with her, I asked her, so how the boyfriend going?
I like the question.
You understand?
Yes.
And she told me he's good. You know, so I knew what I was dealing with. And so our platonic, just friendship, seeing her in school, hi, bye, that kind of thing, continued. Of course, I realized later on that she didn't have a boyfriend. And, you know, so, but we continued our casual friendship for quite a number of years. And as she would have mentioned, she was my confidant, she was my friend, she was the one I would share all, you know, my concerns about school and everything with. And we would meet up, we'd hang out, line together, and after school, when she finished and stuff, we formalized our friendship and became special friends.
Nice. I'm so glad, Elder Sentil, you went to that next phrase, because that leads me to my next question. So, at what point in the journey would you have determined that this was the one, or she was the one? At what point can you zone into there's a crossover period that you just knew, yeah, this is it for me?
I think very late. And I say that very cautiously. I knew she was the one when I was ready to propose. Because I take the position, this is me personally, now I was very much in love, you know, and very much attractive and wanting all these things. But I always take the approach of, I never know she's the one until it's that time. Okay. And so we decided to take a friendship from casual friendship to special friends, dating, and when God told us that it's about time, and we started praying about our relationship, our friendship, and God told us, go ahead, that's when I knew. But before that, I didn't want to make any pronouncement, not just to her, but to myself as well, because we always want to leave the doors open for God's guidance either way.
Fantastic. All right. So after some time and consulting the Lord, that's when you got clarity?
Yes.
Okay, and would you say, Karina, that was the same for you as well?
Yes, to an extent. I mean, we would often pray about our relationship as well, and we didn't want to get into marriage just because it's the natural progression of things. So we were yes, we loved each other, but we were very calculated and prayerful before we made that decision of marriage.
Fantastic. Well, the Julians, after, you know, we ended up talking across the fence, Elder Julian, at what point did you know that Sister Julian, you were feeling inspired or led that she was the one? I mean, can you identify like a period or point in time or situation?
Okay, no, this is back in 1998. So I'm training in St. James and stuff. Remember I told you when I came back to Trinidad, she and I continued talking and stuff. Now back then there were no cell phones as yet, or at least it belonged to the upper class and not Tom, Dick and Harry as it is now. So we used to communicate via landline and stuff. And this was July, August. I believe more July than August. Tasha told me that she was going to Tobago, but we didn't confirm as to when she was going back to Tobago. And just like that, other day I'm training, and I felt like if something was torn from under me. I was feeling so depressed all of a sudden. I was feeling so sad, and I couldn't understand what is the reason for this. So then I tried getting on to Tasha. I'm not getting on to her. I think it's a day or 2 days after, she would have called me and told me she's in Tobago. And I asked her, when did you go up? And the same time I started feeling like that is the same time Tasha was on the boat going to Tobago. So from there I know, hey, this is a strong bond here, and I always wanted to get married early. I got married at 21. I always wanted to get married early, and Tasha was amazing. So that's when I knew, when my heart sunk that afternoon. I couldn't.
When a man said his wife is amazing, ladies, you sit up. And what about you, Sister Tasha? On going to the boat, you felt the same sort of connection too, or yours was a little different type?
I was just excited to go to Tobago. Mine wasn't like his. After a few proposals, I decided to pray about it and so on. But at that point in time in my life when I met Delroy, he became like my knight in shining armor. Whatever it was, he was it at that point in time. At that point in time, he was it. So when he proposed the first time, I didn't think he was serious. The second time, the third and the fourth, I said, okay, Lord, you're trying to tell me something. Let's have a conversation. And so I prayed about it. And after some time, I said, well, if he asks another time, I know for sure. And lo and behold, he asked another time. And I accepted.
Wow, persistence, man, I tell you. Yeah, man said, but Elder Sentel, when a man decides he's found a wife, he's found a wife. Hallelujah. So, can you tell us, how long have you been married?
21 years.
21
April
years.
gone. Yeah.
April was 21 years. Now, that's a good man when he knows the date and the month. Bless God. And how long have 21 years? So how long have you all been married?
We've been married 3 years. At the December the 2nd, we'll make it 4 years.
Beautiful. Okay, so we have 3 years plus. We have just past 21 years. Okay, so that helps us profile where we are. Great. Now, before we get into the money part of it, let me just ask you a question. What general advice would you just give to persons, whether it's young or even not so young, contemplating marriage? What general advice do you normally give, or you would typically say that you want to say to persons listening regarding marriage now that you're on the other side? You've been married now 3 years plus, 21 years plus. So I will start maybe with the younger ones, and then I'll go to the more mature ones. What would you just tell those listening, contemplating marriage, or want marriage in their future?
What I would say would sound so cliche, but it's so pertinent. Put God in the midst. I always believe that you do not know what a person can become. And as Pastor Horrell says, you will always marry the wrong person. And he shook me up in a marriage conference with that, because he's saying the person who you think you know before marriage, after marriage, you realize it's not the same person you knew before. And so in that light, you don't really marry the person you think you marry. And so because of that, the only person who truly knows her is God. The only person who knows her beginning or her end, how she will turn out, whether she will be a party animal down the road, a zessa or whatever down the road, I don't know that. But God knows. And so I leave it in his hands, and I encourage young people, you want to get married, pray, and God would reveal certain things to you as to whether you should go. Don't lean on your own understanding, but trust in God.
Right, Elder Sentel, that's powerful. Before sister, I like when husband and wife, they give advice. You must listen to both of them when they speak. I've learned that. But before you go, Elder Sentel, I want you to just give us a little window into how did you put God in your mix? Now, when we hear these statements, sometimes they're not always clarified by action statements. So we hear this statement, put God in your mix. But then somebody will say, well, that could mean so many different things. But give us a little window from your experience. How did you put God in your mix? Can you just give us a little enlightenment?
Well, Ellen White said it very plain. She says, when you're approaching marriage, if you were praying twice a day, you had to pray 6 and 8 times a day when you're approaching marriage. And you really have to start to pray. I can guarantee you, if you're approaching marriage, you're getting serious with this mate, and you start to pray, you would start to see certain things popping up. You'd start to see different things that probably need to be dealt with, and you probably should deal with them. So put God in the mix and have your personal relationship with God. But I got great advice from Pastor Horrell as well as my dad, Pastor St. Hill, and they told me that our relationship must have a relationship with God. And not just me, I must have my relationship, she must have a relationship, but they say to me, our relationship must also have a relationship with God. And we tried to do that as much as we could. Of course, we are not perfect. We fell off the bandwagon many times. Have to pull ourselves back on there and continue to pray to God and ask him, Lord, to reveal, lay down the fleece, as our sister there said, Lord, is this your plan for my life? And if it's not your plan, derail it, please, in the nicest way. But if it is, Lord, I want to go through it confidence knowing that this is your plan for me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, Elder Karina.
Elder Curry. With regard to couples who are thinking about getting married, what I would advise is, if you are at that stage, just very practical. Do not set a date for your wedding before you have completed your counseling. So, reason being is, once you have set a date for your wedding and then you are looking for a counselor, you have already made up in your mind, we are going to get married no matter what. Counseling is just a formality. However, in our, and just given from our experience, we did not set a date for our wedding. We were calling it couples counseling, but our counselor would have said, he only knows how to do marriage counseling, so that is what we are doing. So I was happy that we did the marriage counseling, and within that you would get issues that you knew that you may have had within your marriage relationship, However, there were kind of gray areas that you may not have been able to pinpoint directly, but counseling would show up those things and you would be in a better position to treat with it. So that would allow that you have a time period to treat with it if you need to do additional work within your relationship before you really take that step of getting married. And there's always life after the wedding. So do not put so much of your time, your energy, your money into a wedding that would just last a couple hours and then not think about your marriage after. So that would be the advice that I would give.
Fantastic. Thank you. Good advice. Thank you very much, St. Hills. Well, let's hear from the Julian. 21 years in.
Mm-hmm. All right, so there are so many. I would say during the courtship period, that period is so important that you find out as much about the other person as possible. I want to say find out. Yes, you want to spend time with that person, but go spend time with her family. Go spend time with his family. Carry your mother-in-law or potential mother-in-law out for a lunch, out for a dinner, because most likely what you are seeing in your mother-in-law is what you'll see eventually in your wife. So it's to ask questions. It's to ask questions. How many children you think you want to have? Because these questions not asked before in the marriage, it may become a problem, because you might have one ideal and the other person have another ideal, and it creates conflict right there and then. Now you're saying Tasha and I sitting down here, there are no two more opposite persons in the world than Natasha and I. Let me give you all a little example. The wares. I like the knives you eat with up facing upward. Tasha like them down. Now I just get vexed when she put them down. So every time I pass by the West trainer, I put it up. Tasha will sit up, she put it down. I will pass back, sit down, I put it up, and that's, you would not find two persons who are more opposite than Tasha and I. So my advice to young persons are, when you're going to get married, ask as many questions as possible so that there are no surprises. I mean, when you get married, you get mature, you change things that probably were sentimental or of great value to you when you now get married. Over the years, sometimes they change a bit, but to prevent conflict back in a marriage, it is to ask questions up front. If you permit me one more answer to that question, it's also to get someone who is married that you can go to, you and your wife can go to get advice. Brother and Sister Dennis has been with us through our whole, I don't think, without the advice of Brother and Sister Dennis, we probably would not be together today. So it's good. It's really good to have that other couple who is married, has the experience that you can go to get advice from, so that they can tell you or direct you in what direction to go. So those are two pieces of advice.
Thank you. Thank you.
For me, what is fundamental in it is God. As Elder Hill was saying, He knows everything, the totality, the end from the beginning, the in-between, the ups, the downs, peaks, valleys. He knows it all. So once I am communicating with God and He is speaking to me and I am strengthened to be obedient to Him, to me that is the key. Because when you get married, the peaks and the valleys, you see the valleys can break you. And without God, that is what you will be, broken. Once God is in the mix, and as Ellison Hill said, that praying relationship that you would have with God, when He tells you, listen, no food today, you need to pray and fast, and you do it. Remember, He's seen everything. He knows what is coming. Sometimes I get that instruction, I'm like, but Lord, is lasagna I cooked today? Pray and fast? Okay. And then a little voice will say, don't pray and fast and see what's coming for you. And I will go and do it. Sometimes I'll call brother or sister Dennis, and they will give me a little tip, I'll do this, do that, do the other. And I do it. And by the time the evening time comes, and I see what has unfolded, thank God He prepared me from before. That relationship with God is key to everything in your marriage.
Very interesting. Sister Julian, were you 21 too when you got married to Elder
Though
Julian?
I look years younger, I am years elder than Delroy.
Oh, you okay? So you were 21. He was 21. Okay, I got you. All right, very interesting. All right, so you heard it, ladies and gentlemen. Advice from those who are in it. All right, after the fairy tale, and we heard Sister Sentil talk about the fact that, don't put too much emphasis on the wedding, as the marriage is coming right after. And so we hear that echoed by the Julians as well. It's real out there, all right? It's certainly real. And certainly we'll have to have God, as Ellison Hill said, and also ratified by Sister Julian. But if you don't have God, the same cute, nice, handsome person you saw at the earliest that swept you off your feet can be the same person you're running from years later if you don't have God with you. And you haven't had that relationship with God, and your relationship also has a relationship with God. Is that what he said, Sentil? Yeah, that's what he said. Well, I better love Jesus now, boy. I mean, maybe Jesus think I'm ready yet. I need to love Jesus some more, as I said. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So, let's talk a little bit about money now. Money. Can I ask each on either side, and any one of you can answer first, what was your first recollection that money is important and valuable in your life? What's your first recollection when you were younger? Who was it that brought that to you? Did you have an experience, a grandmother, a mother, a father, aunt, uncle, that helped you understand that money is important and it has value? Can you identify who and what experience you would have had when you're growing up that started you on that journey thinking about money?
Okay, my dad. Now, I grew up in a family with 9 other siblings, so we were relatively large, and we were poor, right? So I know what it sometimes may not be to have the best food to eat, and that kind of stuff. So this one time, my uncle, he was a carpenter. He built a cash pan for me, and my gosh, I could remember it like yesterday, a brown cash pan, like a Bible, and he had a little slit that you used to just put your dollar or your 25 cents. And back in them days, 25 cents could have done a lot, and a dollar could have done a lot. And there was this one time that things were really hard with us, and my cash pan was full. Daddy came to me. He said, well, my name in Tobago was Baby, right? So he said, baby, we're under a little pressure. We need somebody, he asked me in such a nice way if we could lend him some of the money that was in the cash pan. Now, my cash pan was full, I tell you, plenty money. So we ended up breaking it. I and all didn't know I had so much money in that cash pan. And it took a lot for my father to come and ask me to do that, because he knew how much I cherished that money that was inside of there. So from that point in time, I started understanding that money has value and money is needed to be able to do stuff for your family.
Very interesting.
Well, for me, at a very young age, my mother sent me out. I had a list, and she would send me to make market, groceries at a very young, I was in primary school. That I am talking about standard one. In those days, it was safer. So you would walk from home to the grocery and so on. She would send me to get multiple things, curtains, slip. It didn't matter what it was. So from a very tender age, I knew the value of money. I had to know how much change I had to bring home from what she gave me. I had to remember the list by heart. And so on. So it came natural after a period of time for me.
All right, very interesting. Thank you.
Well, my wife and I, we just discussed that we don't really have any significant moments where we realize that money.
Oh, yeah, let's grow up with money. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, not really. But what I would say is that from a very young age, I've always had the entrepreneurial mind. I remember from secondary school, there was the Hurricane Ivan in Grenada and stuff, and I got into trading electronics and all these things. And, you know, so from secondary school days, I was always into entrepreneurship. And business is a passion of mine. And a byproduct of that passion is profit and loss. You know, and so I understand the role of money in our lives, but I think our understanding of money is really a means to an end more than an end in and of itself. So money gets us to the places that we want to go, whether it be a goal in terms of your business or it be a personal goal or something of this sort.
Oh, but that's not Elder Centil. You're skipping all details, Elder Centil. So who did you first see taught you about entrepreneurship? An uncle, a father? I mean, as kids, we have to look at somebody. So who was the first person you saw who knew about business and profit? You call them big words, profit and loss? Where did you get that from, Elder Centil?
Well, my wife just said nobody. I didn't. You're asking me questions here that I'm thinking about for the first time, right? So, but my grandfather and stuff would have been, he was a businessman, and you know, and my family, they had their businesses and stuff. So I guess maybe there, but I always thought it was just in me.
I got you. Sister Karina, the same for you too? You just knew it one day, you just got up and knew?
I'm not really sure because you see, I didn't really think about it when I was a child. I had a cash pan. Rather, I had a piggy bank, so it was a pig, a green one, and we used to put money in it, but I didn't really think nothing of it. I guess when I started to work, you understood the value of hard work, and then money comes after. Yeah.
Gotcha. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I just recall, at least at my house, I had the piggy bank too. And you know, you put your coins in the hole and you thought you had a lot of money, of course, until they got older. Maybe in Elder Julian days, but you know, I mean, in my days, you know, 25 cents was worth 2 polori. That was when I was in elementary school, right? But maybe it might have worth more before then. But I remember that, and as I got older, I always remember my parents would write down things about money in a little book. And I used to see that. And I always saw my father asking my mother for money. And I always said, well, how come does my mother have the money? You know, you always ask, you know, and my parents call each other love. Very interesting. Each mother will call each other love. So my father will go to my mom and say, love, you have any change? And I was like, how come my mother is always the one to have change? Like, he's going to buy gas, or, you know, he wants to go and get something in the store. So I learned early that my mother had the money. I learned that early, right? She had the money, right? And I came to know later on in life, but when it comes to managing money, my mom was the one to manage. She could save money like that. And I think I learned that from her now. She could really, really save money. So I'll ask her to come back and look at this clip in the AY this afternoon so she could hear proof that I'm quoting her. So tell me about budgeting and when did you first understand about budgeting and when you started using it in your own personal experiences before you brought it into a marriage experience. So was budgeting a part of your life as you became a younger person, started making money? Or, you know, when did that start and did you use it? Or you kind of one of those that I heard somebody told me recently, I can't say who, Trinidad too small is, know who you're talking about. So the person said to me, I just like to spend money and I don't keep no budget. The person said to me, when I feel like going on the road and buy a pineapple, I just want to buy a pineapple. Oh, this person is married, by the way. The person said to me, I like to be free with money, I don't like to be restricted. So when I want to buy something, when the money run out, well, that is when I know I don't have any more anymore. So is that something that in your experience it is, or do you kind of hold closer to money? How has it been in your experience? And then tell me, how did you carry that over into a marriage? Any side can answer first.
Okay, but I did my first budget again in primary school. All right, we were in, I think it was third standard or fourth standard, one out of the two. We did budget in school for social studies, and since then I have been doing a budget. I am like your mom, I'm a saver. I watch the pennies, and as Delroy said, we are totally opposite.
I got my first job when I was like 16, and it was an afternoon job after I finished school. I worked in a little hotel and stuff across in Tobago there, so that's how I really know, because I basically started taking care of myself from 16, 17, because again, plenty of us, money tight. So with having this job, I was able to go to school, pay for my transport, pay for my lunch, so that's my first experience with budgeting. Yep.
And did you, how in marriage do you defer to the person who manages money, or seems to be more structured with money? Is that how you have thought about doing it together? How did you manage the differences between the approaches?
No, Tasha is a thrifty person in the relationship. Tasha could make $10 look like $100. You know, there are some guys that don't trust their wives with money. I don't have that problem in my relationship. I will give Tasha my card and said, or if there's a need for something, she can say, Deloy, I need this or I need that. And I'm not even going to ask her after I give her what you did with it. I know whatever she did with it, it was well done.
Very nice, very nice. So what do you say, you all kind of join together when it comes to money? You kind of agree ahead of time, or do you allow each other some flexibility?
Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility. Again, we would know what our budget is, what our bills are at the end of the month, and you know, each of us would have our own little responsibility, so we take care of that. If there's something that comes up, well, we join forces and said, okay, let's take care of this. But again, every couple would have their own way of dealing with money matters. You have to find what works for you. There's no absolute blueprint or no absolute model to work from. Each couple is different, and you just know what works for you guys, and you do that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And I would like to hinge on that last point that Brother Delroy was making, that every couple has to know what works for them. So with regard to me, before I was married, I did not budget, but I was not I did not spend wildly. I was very careful with how I spent, so that would have carried over into our marriage relationship. We do not budget in the formal sense of the word, to sit and we allocate this amount to bills or this amount to whatever we have to do. However, we would track where our money is going. So there are apps, I have an app that I use that would track how much we have spent in gas, how much we have spent in gifts, what is in your savings now and or your account, and how much you have spent in groceries for the month. So every month we would know how much we would have spent, and of course we would kind of review informally, oh no, well, we will have to hold off on this, we have already spent that. So in that way, we would track our finances rather than budget in the formal sense of the word.
Yes, as it pertains to, I agree with Karina that there's no one size fits all where it pertains to financial management. Just to give you a little glimpse of us. Because, you know, they always say that couples should join their monies together and have all to this one account and that kind of thing. I have my business. So I have my personal accounts and I have my commercial accounts. Karina, she has her job, but Karina also has a business as well. All right, so you have income and expenses coming out from different accounts, different times, going different areas. And then the dynamics of our marriage has been that we budget and spend according to certain trends of what may be necessary at this point in time. So you may be on a marriage or a couple, any married couple may be on a certain project at this time, and a bunch of their money may be going into that. Let's say if a couple wants, they decide this for the next 2 years, we're investing in this, or we want to start up this business, then, the budgeting would largely surround that and, these types of things. So I'm just saying that there's no one size fits all, but it's important as a couple to collaborate and to know and to be on top of your finances, know where your money is going. Don't let it just run away from you. You have to be a good steward, and my wife is saying here, tell your money where to go. And so I before marriage, I was very free-handed with money. Yeah, I'm a sanguine personality, and I'm also have an entrepreneurial mind. So the next best thing, we all in. Yes, we all in, and getting into marriage and understanding the responsibility and the sobriety of dealing with finances, I became much like my wife. And so even sometimes the roles change. Where I thought she was tight-handed, now I'm telling her, girl, we buy too much gift for this month already. Then we have to go to that wedding and don't get no gift for no girl, because it's pressure. We spend real money on gifts, So we see eye to eye where that is concerned in terms of budgeting and spending. In terms of collaborating, as you all mentioned, in terms of finances, we more or less collaborate for the larger stuff, but like the other couple, the Julians there, we have a lot of flexibility personally.
So tell me, for both of you, and since Elder Centil just spoke, would you say it causes you to have multiple conversations about money based on your approach, or is it like you kind of have a general idea for the month of major discussion, and from there it pretty much falls in line, or do you have like multiple discussions?
Multiple discussions. As a matter of fact, all month we speak about money. All month, you're just having a casual conversation. That's the I would say the trend of daily conversations, weekly conversations. Hey, so and so, the account looking so and so. Yes, we want to do this. When we gonna do that? When we going to allocate this money? We had this. So that's the general tone. And Karina and myself, from time to time, when we do check the accounts and see how it's going and stuff, she would either come to me, Jaden, so and so and so, and we would do likewise. So the conversation is an ongoing one.
Got you. And one other question for you before we ask on this side. So who monitors the money more, Karina or you, Elder Jaden?
Karina does. Karina does monitor the money more. However, I would monitor the money more for my business side of things. So because I have a lot of accounting matters to do, but I would confess that I have brought on my wife to be one of my financial managers in my business as well. Yes, that's one of her strengths. So she even sometimes does my books and stuff for me with my business, and to keep track of everything. But generally, I deal with the finances of my business, my personal finances, and these types of things. But as it pertains to our joint accounts and things that our finances together, she would more or less be the one checking up on those things.
Gotcha. And what about your ongoing financial conversations, and who is the one? I think we could guess in this home who is the one who monitors the money more, or maybe you might tell us something else, Elder Julia.
Well, Tasha and I have separate accounts. It's not joint. I mean, if some couples that works, no problem, but we have that flexibility again. If there's a project like we want to undertake something soon, so some finances are going towards that. So Tasha's on top of that. I don't even ask her, well, when that, she would just tell me, that way this coming so and so, this coming so and so, clear the room, this, we're going to do this. So she's really the person who directs the show when it comes to, I'd be so busy with my normal job, and like Jaden and they have a little entrepreneurial spirit too. So I manage my job along with that business. I know Tasha is so busy with school and all of that, so I don't, as per se, put her under too much pressure to be in that as much, but with the business and work, I basically manage those resources. Yeah.
All right, very, very interesting. So tell me a little bit about debt. And would you say that your partner, whichever one of you answer, their views about having debt was the same as yours or similar, or was that a conversation that both of you all had to have in order to determine debt? How much debt to be in? Should we acquire debt? We have different views on debt, and how should we approach having debt? Tell us a little bit about that in your experience, in your marriage.
In our experience, that is a very important conversation that, premarital counseling, again, that is a topic where certain things that you may not have asked during the progression of your relationship, those are important issues to cover. So it is always important. You need to know a lot of things about the individual that you are getting into a long-term marital relationship with, and you need to agree upon when you get into that marriage relationship, what would be the arrangements. And there is something that Jaden, there's an example that he would give at this time.
Oh, yes.
Something just happened there.
I did not tell him. I just jogged his memory.
As when you all get married, you all will realize that men, we have a backup storage outside of our head sometimes. So she just jogged my memory, and debt is a serious thing, that couples must discuss before marriage. When you get into a relationship, I believe that you take on the debt of the other individual. You have to do that. Some people think that, okay, we get married, you working, I working, so I will handle my debt, you will handle your debt, that kind of thing. I don't think that's the best way to approach it. I think when you marry an individual, you are also marrying into their liabilities, their responsibilities, and these things. And I always use the classic example, which Karina and I would have discussed, of a young lady. She has some student loans, $50,000, $60,000, $80,000, and she gets married to the husband. She's working, so she's paying off her loans and whatnot. But then down the road, and these are real life scenarios that take place, down the road she gets pregnant and she is unable to keep her job. Maybe the pregnancy is not going so well. Maybe she lost her job. Now what happens is the husband, what he has to do now, he has to take over her student loans. And so it is critical to understand each other's debt when you are getting married. I wouldn't jump the gun, but I was going to say something else. But it's critical to understand each other's debt when you are getting married, and understand that I am marrying not just this person, but if they default and they cannot pay, I have to jump our money as well. So I think that is critical. Our views on debt. Karina, permit me to say, Karina is anti-debt, 100%. If she can't buy it outright cash, she don't want it. And we got into marriage. I got into marriage with her with that understanding that she's like that. I'm a little bit more liberal, as I mentioned. I believe in using debt as a form of leverage. So I don't believe in getting into debt for a vehicle, a brand new car, or anything like that. I believe in getting into debt for investment purposes, so that your return on investment, or your ROI, yes, you're getting some knowledge here this evening, your return on that investment must beat the interest rate of the loan that you're paying back to put you in a better position than you started off in. So that's my concept where debt is concerned. Karina is still a little bit more conservative than I am. She prefers to do things cash.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, so this thing called credit card. I had one years ago, a long time, years ago, and to me a credit card was to go and buy a sneaker or to go and do some kind of nonsense with it. But as Jaden said, there's good debt and bad debt. Yeah. And the good debts are when you take a credit card and you buy something and you sell over. So you leverage people's money. A credit card is not to go and have fun with. That's not the purpose of a credit card. You use a credit card to get return on that investment of that credit card. So when I was young, I did not have that understanding. Now I have that understanding and truly understand the serious repercussions of debt. And of course, that's a topic that both couples, remember I said earlier on, you have to ask questions. Yeah. This is one of the questions that you have to ask. A, how much debt you have? Because if that person has $200,000-$300,000 in debt, the same, and you come in that relationship, and when it is finally revealed $200,000 in debt, how are you going to deal with that? That person should have had the option to know that up front, so you can say, okay, this is something I can deal with, or this is something I can't deal with. Now, money causes a lot of problems in relationships if it is not handled properly, if it is not dealt with properly, if it's not spoken about. So that is something that, as Karina rightly said, should be unavoidable. And if you do use it, it's positive debt or positive stuff you're going to do with it, and not something that is going to be a bad debt. Yep.
I don't have much to say. I'm like Karina, no debt.
I like it. Just avoid that completely. I think the Bible has something to say about that. Isn't that, Karina? I think you should give us a text just now, right? I think you should. I really appreciate you all sharing that. So I just have about 2 more questions for each of you. But before I ask you the 2, if you could probably just think about a biblical ideology, philosophy, or text that helps to govern your thoughts on finances, I would like you to share it with the audience today listening. All right, so I'll put you on alert to think about it from now. That's not one of the 2 questions, but I was just your advice that you will give to us listening as to your guidance from the Word of God. How does that guide your thoughts on finances and what you can share with others? Yeah. So that'll probably be the last thing I'll ask. But before I ask that, and you're thinking about that, so tell us a little bit about 2 things: children in the mix. Or if you have children, how young or early did you start, or will you start talking to them about money and money management and financial, thinking? Tell me about that. And also, I'm going to ask you as well to give your final advice to persons listening in terms of money and entering money with a spouse. Right? You talked about in counseling, but from your own experience, I want you to just add to that and just tell us what you would share. Right? So those are the 2 questions, followed by your biblical philosophy that guides your money patterns and your money approach. So let's first start with children and money and awareness of money and planning for finances. How early did or will you start?
Well, because of my background, because I started early, I also started him early as well. So simple things. They're in school, and maybe on a Friday he will get some extra money, and he has to know how to budget it. He will tell me, okay, he wants 1, 2, 3 things. I give him a certain amount of money, and he has to decide which one of the 3 can he buy. 2, he has to be able to do his subtraction and division to know what he can buy from the money that is given to him. And if he can purchase 2 things, I ask him, what are you going to do with the rest of the money? Are you going to save it so that the following Friday you can get what you didn't get today? Those kinds of things you need to ask them and show them, so that they start to learn money skills without even realizing that they are learning something or that they are budgeting. So we started him early. Mm-hmm. I would give him, maybe I might give him $10, but Delroy is very liberal. So he may get 20 or 30 from Delroy, and then he has to learn how to budget that money. Or I might take back some from him so that he would learn a lesson. Things doesn't always come easily, right? You have to know that hard work was placed into getting this money, right? And just to rush past to the last question, I always say to myself, Tash, this is God's money. He gave you the strength. He woke you up every day so that you can work for this money. This is God's money. So if I have to take out the family, I would spend, because I'm taking care of God's children. But when it comes to me, I would say, maybe this is not necessary. right? And maybe this is not necessary. God will take care of me. He will send somebody, maybe my mother or my godmother, to send something for me. I always have it in the back of my head. This is God's money. Is he going to be pleased if I buy this? Did he even tell me it's okay to buy this? Did you consult with God when you were going to purchase this? So that is how I think about it.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Powerful, very powerful. Thank you very much. Oh, how early do you think is early to introduce? I'm assuming you all don't have any children yet.
No, we don't have any children. I don't think it's ever like too early unless, you give the child a coin and they choke on the coin because they're too young. But I think it's important to teach values of money early, and always with the understanding that Natasha would have said, it's God's money. So you have to teach your children that not just you are working to get rich, to buy nice things. That may not be the best ideology. I mean, with my niece and I, we always have a song. She would see me working because I do my job from home. And she would say, Auntie, you working? I was like, yes. And we have a song, we working to get the money, to buy groceries, to buy fruits. And, maybe now is a good time to teach her about other things as well, given to the mission and stuff like that. And on that point, I would like to say that Jaden and I, in our marriage relationship, oftentimes it is always good to return your tithe, offering, and gift to the church. And in addition to that, as a couple, we have a mission as well. So we have established a mission fund with our personal finances that we would allocate aside from a percentage of our earnings, aside from tithe and offerings, that we would have at our disposal. Both persons contributed every month, and whatever comes up, if we know of a case that somebody would need groceries or somebody would need anything, it could be anything, a book, we would go to that fund that we have and we would purchase it, because at the end of the day, our marital relationship and everything that we own should be done to God's honor and glory, right? So that is one thing that we have established monetary within our marriage relationship. And I know you would have asked me for a text concerning debt.
Yes.
I mean, it's from Proverbs 22:7, and it said, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender.
Yes, ma'am.
So that is my ideology. It captures it perfectly, and I would just hand over to Jaden to finish up.
Well, as Karina mentioned, we established the mission fund after, we were praying and stuff, and we were reading Ellen White, and we realized that Ellen White herself established a mission fund. She decided that outside of her tithe and offering, that she would put a percentage to help the poor, the needy and stuff. And we started doing it, and oh my, God continued to bless us. And how we realized that God was blessing us financially is because we realized the mission fund was growing exponentially. And we realized that it was a percentage-based thing. So if the mission fund growing, it means that, hey, and God continued to bless the mission fund in such a way that we were able throughout the pandemic to do several hampers for families all over. It grew and grew until persons heard of it and started to donate monies to the mission fund. And this all came out of an experience Karina and I had, where a couple of our friends at the same time approached her asking to borrow money. They had fallen on rough times. And we decided, how are we going to do this? One wanted to borrow some money, and the other one was asking for a contribution to help with school and stuff. And so I told Karina, she called me, Jaden, because this is how we deal stuff. In the middle of the day, how can I deal with this? What should I do? I said, here, what? Take the money and lend this person, and when they pay you back, take the same money and give that person. All right, and that's what we did. And it is then and there God revealed to us the reading from Ellen White, and we decided to establish this mission fund, and it has been growing. And so I want to encourage anybody, because you have to remember that God is giving you these gifts. These are to be used for the furtherance of His cause. My philosophy, as I close, is taken from the book of Ecclesiastes. which says, money answereth all things. Money answered all. And I always tell people I have a lot of questions to be answered. so I need a lot of money. But seriously, my philosophy on money, as I mentioned earlier, it's a means to an end. You all heard that I am an entrepreneur, and I also do mission work. My desire is to be like Paul. Paul was a missionary. He started churches all over. He preached the gospel all over. But he didn't require the church to give him money. He didn't require the church to fund his efforts, though there's a responsibility that the church must fulfill to support the mission work.
Yes.
But he said to the Philippians, when they sent money for him, he says, I applaud your effort. He said, of the gifts that you give. He said, but that the fruit would not be in him, but it would be in yourself. And he said, because I appreciate that the Philippians, and you can read that in Philippians 4. He says, I appreciate that you sent me this money, although I didn't need it. And it is my desire for myself and my wife to reach a position financially where we, like Paul, out of the proceeds of our occupations, out of our businesses, we can help anyone we come into contact with continue to promote the gospel and further the kingdom of God.
Amen. Praise the Lord. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And as you shared that, it really reminded me, my parents were very similar as well. So I grew up seeing that model. And after tithe and offering, there was a next set of money set aside to help God's children. And I saw that model as well. And I could tell you, not only by my parents were blessed, but I partake in the blessing too.
Amen. Amen.
Jesus. So I want to applaud that as well, and to herald what God's king. And again, a lot of times, if we do what God says, we would really, really fare well. And I've seen that. I have seen the opposite in mine, whereas the people I help consistently, God helps put them on their feet, so then I can go help somebody else. That's been fantastic. I've been able to see that as well. So thanks for sharing your journey with that and your own commitment to that as well. Any final words from the Julians, and then we'll take final words, and then Jasmine, you'll tell me if there are any questions that we have. We will take from the audience and online.
Okay, so the scripture text that I am very familiar with, it's, you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth. That's taken from Deuteronomy 8:18. And, you know, when I started this little entrepreneurial drive of mine, I said, God, yes, I want you to bless my family with this. But God, allow me to be a blessing to other people also. So it's not just your family alone you want to be blessed, but you want God to bless you so much that you can reach out. We have just came through over 2 years of a pandemic. A lot of people lost their jobs. True. A lot of people are on their breadline, and sometimes in some families, both the husband and the wife, they are unemployed. And you know, as a business person, people come to you. People would come to you, and I was happy that over the course of the 2 years, I was able to reach out and help 1 or 2 persons. Even on work, they collect drives for persons who in the community that are so needy. I have seen poverty in the last 2 years that I've never seen before. I have seen families where when you go into their homes, when you step into their homes, when any one of us here, when we step into our homes, it's concrete, it's tiles, it's whatever we may have on our flooring. I have stepped into people's home with dirt. With dirt. Their kitchen is on the outside and there's no running water. So I have seen poverty, and COVID has increased it in so many ways. So I'm just glad that through this venture that we're doing, that I can be a blessing to others in this way. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. So I'll pause. And Sister Jasmine, you'll probably give me a cue as to do we have any other questions for the couples on stage this afternoon?
Hi, good afternoon, guys. Hi, good afternoon. Testing 1, 2, 3. You all are hearing me? Mm-hmm. Right. Hi, good afternoon, guys. So this is a question I had. Multiple times when you go through social media and stuff like that, in general social media, there would be multiple times you'll see people saying, well, and this is from younger persons, unmarried, etc. They'd be like, well, if I have to go with somebody, this person has to have X, Y, and Z, house, car, land, business across here, and like they set these standards. And I'm more asking, in your environment, in your circle, the persons you would have been befriended and that kind of stuff, did you have that experience of person setting those kind of standards? And if they were married, did it change for them? Like, did they start off with, this person has to have, for example, if I'm going with a guy, he has to have house, car, land, etc. And did they go on to go with somebody only if they had house, car, land? Or did that change in terms of finances? I know that might be something for a lot of people with that. So, yeah.
Permit me to take a jump at this, because I have a lovely story where this is concerned. I at the beginning of when I decided, I was a single man, decided to go out looking to find. I always told myself, if that is the criteria for marriage, then I don't want to get married. If it is, and I understand, believe you me, I understand the need for women and some men to, to look for these types of stability and security, financial security and these things. I understand that. But the case is quite a bit different with Karina and I. When Karina met me, and that's one of the reasons I love this woman to death, I was driving. As a matter of fact, when we met, I wasn't driving. I didn't have a vehicle, sorry. She would drop me to take taxi from USC, drop me to Courtship and stuff, and she was quite fine with it. And when I did get a vehicle, it was a PAR Charmant. Yeah, faded out paint, rotten doors. I remember one good Adventist church I went to on a Sabbath, and a sister told me, she said, "Who driving the oldest kind of car back there?" And I had to preach. I remember driving out Karina during our courtship and water leaking and wetting us, while we were driving around. And friends, this is not in 1982 or anything, No. I want to set you straight. This is in the year 2015, thereabouts. And so I would be driving down the highway, the Churchill Roosevelt Highway, going into the west, because Karina's from the west, have mercy. West Mall and all these types of things, yes. We go in for dinner and stuff, dressed up nice. And I have my old little hugu-jugu. And what struck me about this woman who's sitting beside me is that I was carrying her, I believe it was for her graduation somewhere. And I being a little bit, you had to have some common sense. Your car holding. And so I decided I wouldn't drop her in front. I'll drop her around to the back on the side. Not to embarrass the girl like that. And I was slowing down, coming around to the side, and she got upset. She's like, "I'm not dropping off here, drop me in front." And I was like, hold on, wait. She not understanding the assignment here. I realized then and there that she not on money. She not on these things. She not on all this fashion and thing. And I decided, this is a woman I can grow with. This is a woman who, and indeed, God has blessed us to grow together, and I only am excited and exuberant for what the future would hold. As it pertains to, just for those who are viewing online, and to balance the statement a little bit, even though a person may not have, if you look at the mindset of the individual, if they have ambition, you can know if they're going somewhere or not. And so you should look for that more than actually what they have.
Thank you. Powerful.
Okay, Jaden, I remember those Sharma. Back in Tobago, they were best cars back in the day, but I was back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. I used to be driving down the highway, and I am the only, my brother told me once, he said, "Boy, that's the only vehicle like this on the whole highway, if you look around, as a matter of fact, on the Churchill Roosevelt Highway, people would know me by the car. Yep. Strangers passing and blowing me because this is the only car like that."
Wow. Okay, so in terms of touching Joseph's question, you don't have to have everything when you get married. You don't. The process of building with your partner, there's a certain feeling you get when you accomplish certain things. But some basic needs are necessary when you get married. Women like to feel protected and safe, so you must produce that environment for them. And men like to provide. It is difficult for your wife sometimes to ask you, honey, we need this or we need that, and for you to say, I don't have it at this point in time. It's sometimes difficult. If it's something big and you know, well, yes, we're saving towards it, that's one thing. But sometimes the basic stuff, it's very, very difficult not to say to your wife, honey, we don't have it at that time. So the building process is good. When Tasha and I got married, we were living right in one of those apartments in Maloney there. We didn't have a car. Now we do drive, and we are out of the community. So it's good to build together. If you can, some persons are fortunate enough to get a house donated from a relative, okay, you all go, that's wonderful. But the building process, there's something special about it when you build from 0 to 100. Really special.
I just want to add to what you're saying as well. If you're really a man at all, it will, besides just being difficult, it would be hurtful to you. Hurtful to you as a man to not be able to provide certain things. If you love this woman, you say you love her, and you would want to give her the world, it would be not just difficult, it would be hurtful to you to not to say. And I can speak to guys here because I know women need that security. But for men, if you reach a point where I can reach this much, and I have to tell her that I really can't, it really hurts sometimes.
That's true.
Very powerful, very powerful. Thank you. All right, any other questions, comments from the audience, or even online that the couples can answer? We have them here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get it out of them today.
Hi, everyone. Jasmine here. So these may be our final 2 questions, unless the audience has anything else they would like ask. But our first question is, how important is saving for your retirement to you all? Have you talked about it? And like, what are your plans in that direction? And the possible final question is, what advice would you give to the young people based off of your younger self and advice you wish, financial advice that is, you wish someone gave to you?
Those are some important questions, Jasmine. All right, I'm going to answer the last question first. If I was 18 again, I would like someone to tell me, start a business. I would like someone to tell me, become an entrepreneur. I would like someone to show me how to start a business, to be in control of my destiny, financially that is. For the public servants who may be amongst us, we know what's going on. All right, I am a public servant, my wife is a public servant, and we are saying that if we were looking towards that or looking at that to become financially more stable, we would be in a lot of problems. What business does it allows you to have some flexibility, especially a successful business. Now, I would have overseen 2 failed businesses. So the experience I got, when it happened, I said, Lord Jesus, please, what's going on here? And then that was the first one. The second one, same thing again. I said, Jesus, you're trying to teach me something here. And all my experience from the first and the second has catapulted me into this third, where now I have the knowledge that I did not have for the number 1 and number 2. And because of that knowledge, I can now say, no, I'm not going that way. I'm going this way instead. So that's why I now know about things like good and bad debt and all this kind of stuff. Is because of decisions that I made in the past. They didn't work out, and now I have gained the knowledge to be able to make good and proper decisions. So getting into business, becoming an entrepreneur, providing a product that people like and are willing to purchase. If I was 18 now, I would want to get that advice from someone, because when you're in that position, you become so independent that you do not need to depend on the CPU or the government or whoever to sustain you. Yeah?
Great advice, and I know Jaden was agreeing in the corner here when Brother Julian was speaking, and he said he has something. You want to say now or after?
Yes, I 100% agree as an entrepreneur myself. What I would add to it is I wish that I would have invested in financial education and business education earlier, because it would teach you these things. You learn it by trial and error, and I too would have had failed businesses, and you reach a point where you get and you keep tweaking it by trial and error. But there's educational courses out there that you can avail yourself of and try to kind of skip those things. Nevertheless, do ever trade the experiences in life, right? But a simple thing that I learned that would have seen the demise of many businesses, including one of mine, was having a credit policy for your business. And not only a credit policy for your business, but a personal credit policy and a marital credit policy. Simply put, how much money can I afford to give out in credit? And how much money can I afford to take in credit? And that's critical for any financial success to understand that, because one of my business got squeezed really hard by going after, you want your business to grow quickly, you want to deal with big customers. So, you're going to these large customers and you're feeling good because you're getting the contracts and you're getting through and you're walking in high places and dealing with a lot of wealthy people and stuff, and you're not realizing that these credit customers can crash your business. And so learning these things and understanding the balance between your credit customers and all these things and bringing it in now here. I wish I'd learned that earlier, as well as a lot of different things. And even in our marriage, for those of you out there who are looking on, have a credit policy for your marriage. Understand this is how much money we can afford to give out. You have your mission fund, and the mission fund helps secures that for you because you have that. But if you don't have a mission fund, understand between in and of yourselves, this is the amount of money, and as Karina mentioned before, this was determined by us in premarital counseling. This is the amount that we are willing to give out. No more than this we would lend anybody. And how much are we willing, or credit are we willing to take, as well as we deal with the topic of finances, how much money we are willing to take as a couple in terms of gifts. Your father-in-law, your mother-in-law, an auntie from away decides to send you money. How much money is too much money, to accept as a gift and these types of things. You have to consider if there are strings attached and all these types of things. So I wish I had invested in financial literacy and business education a lot earlier.
And concerning Jasmine's question about retirement, I think that is very important that we start thinking from now, because you don't want to reach when you are almost there that you really and truly pension may not be enough to sustain you, right? So that's why I want to hinge on having a business that you can grow from early on, that can help you with your financial sustainability at that age, your end of life days and stuff, that you can really enjoy it when you have the free time, that you can travel, you can build up God's kingdom, you can do whatever you want to do with that money and that time when that time reaches. And what I wish someone had told me about money at an earlier point, I don't really have any advice on that, but what I would say is that you establish a savings plan. You always have savings, and you never know when a rainy day may come and you may need your savings. So always also consult with your spouse and make those decisions together, and may God bless your union.
Very nice.
Okay, I just want to add a few things to what Jaden would have said in terms of the credit side of it. The smaller the business is, the less credit you can provide to persons. Because again, you're a small business. You can't afford to give credit to, because you need money. A small business needs money daily. So when you are thinking about giving credit, that same credit you're giving out, you're waiting a month to get the money for it. Tomorrow a customer might come and buy that same amount of product. So as a small business, you can't afford to give too much of credit. In terms of the savings, Jasmine, you have to start as soon as possible. And why I say that is this. We are saying, I don't know how much I love to read about the business things that are going on in the country. You're saying that they want to raise the age for retirement to 65. Yeah. I don't want to work until I'm 60. Who here wants to work until they're 65 years old? In fact, tomorrow I think I could throw in some paper. That's how I'm ready to stop working. And they're telling you about raising it to 65. Now, if you do not start putting away something like an annuity plan or something like that, you will have to depend on that pension and wait until you're 65 to get that pension if they do go through with that. Whereby if you have your annuity there over the years, it's building. When you reach a particular age, you have your retirement money. That's not something you have to work out or worry about. About 2 or 3 years ago, Tash and I sat down and I said, honey, let me hear about your pension, your insurances and stuff. And when she showed me what her insurances were, I said, no. So I contacted our agent. They did up some stuff for us. It's good to have, again, an annuity. It's good to have an accident and emergency. It's good to have a critical illness. All these are good policies. It's good to have so that when the time comes, you don't have to dip or try to find or throw a barbecue. You can go to your respective wherever and get your money to do it. Another thing is called the indemnity plan. Each credit union, almost all credit unions, have an indemnity plan where if a loved one were to pass away, God forbid, they are from $10,000. Well, $10,000 can't even really cover funeral costs anymore, up to $100,000, and you get your money in 2 days. So all these are good things to have. And what we need to realize, so we don't want our family members to pass away. Of course not. But if they pass away, wouldn't it be good for you to get a $250,000 or $500,000? I mean, it's not going to lessen the feeling of grief, but you have that there left for your relatives so that they can live off of something. So those things are very important that you get in place.
Yeah, my wife say, you sure he's not an insurance agent? But just a word of advice I agree. All these things are critical for your family because things happen in life. Things happen and you must have a contingency plan to help back up your savings. You can't just say, well, I'm going to save till I retire and think that will one sickness and all it goes down the drain immediately. So these insurance policies, indemnities, all these life insurance things, they are good. I would just caution you by saying, learn about it before you invest in it. Learn about the company that's offering it and read the fine print. Don't just fall prey to a charismatic agent, and just go sign, because there are some companies I want to caution you. I don't know of any of them specifically, but I understand that there are some companies that they give a little bit of trouble to pay. Payouts, they don't like that at all. And so read the fine print. Read if you have a life insurance or critical illness, what are the things that disqualify you from a payout? Read those fine prints, because sometimes they tell you, well, natural disasters or acts of God, you can't get paid nothing for that, and all these types of things. So ensure to read the fine print, because this is a part of you being a steward of the monies and the gifts that God has entrusted unto you.
Yes, I would like to agree with the panel in terms of the pension plan. It is extremely important. You don't want to have to be worrying about that when you get older, when you're not able physically to get anything. In terms of what I would tell my younger self, at 18, I would probably want someone to teach me how to invest. Though I'm a saver, it would have been nice to have a return on what I was saving. So I would have wanted somebody to teach me how to invest, where to invest, when to invest. That is what I would have loved someone to tell me.
Very nice, powerful, potent stuff, and I know the couples can share even more. And as you were just speaking, I just wanted to put a plug in here, as you said it, and I hope the young persons who are here are listening and those who are online are listening, because we have seen the trend changing in our country for contract employment. And many of our young people today are going to enter their first employment types of relationships contract-wise, and a lot of them are not always thinking of tomorrow, especially when you're younger. And many of them will probably be in employment relationships for quite a period of time. That's where the economy is as it is in our country. And so making very important decisions at this point in your life, particularly for down the road, is important to seek advice. So you heard from the couples, they can share. If you know them, feel free to ask them a couple questions here and there about thinking, and they can probably guide you if you're looking for guidance. And of course, there are other means in which you can get information to be financially literate about thinking about the future. I had a student call me last week, and she said to me, Miss Vigo, I'm thinking about, a career shift, and I'm thinking about making a change, and I want to talk to you about career advice. And, she's in a permanent job, and I said, are you aware that if you're about to make a change now from your institution, that more than likely you're going to enter into a contract type arrangement? Are you willing to take that type of risk now? You have to say yes or you have to say no, because all of that is part of your thinking for the future. And she's like, miss, I never thought about that. But that's the reality, right? And a lot of times it doesn't think about your future or your stability for going forward. So that being the case, great advice from the couples this afternoon. Pay attention and listen to good advice. And I always tell people, good advice comes from church, And Seventh-Day Adventist people don't have a lot of excuse, because we take a lot of time to educate. We have programs after programs. There are books, there are magazines, there are shows, there are information. So we are the only religion, probably the only denomination, that takes so much time to educate their people from a vast array of sources available. It's unfortunate sometimes that we miss, we skip, we leave out, and then we want to know why people don't know, and the information is readily available. So go looking for it. It's there. It's there available to you. Start where at least it's available, and then from there you can move on to even more sources that can add to what already exists. So thank you very much. Thank you for the Centils this afternoon. Thank you to the Julian for showing from your real experience with us and giving us an example of how we can lead our homes and lives as God's children while we are here in preparation for the life to come.
Good afternoon once again, guys. Good afternoon. And first, I must say thank you to the couples as well as our wonderful moderator. I think this afternoon we were lucky. We didn't even have to pay for all of that great financial advice. So I thank you guys. Of course, I'll run away quickly before you guys send me your invoices. But I thank you guys so much for the great advice. And I know that many of us would have really benefited from what we would have learned this afternoon. And so I would like to say a heartfelt thank you to you guys and on behalf of everybody who would have been online as well. Right now I'm going to just go through some of the announcements. Of course, we know for those online, and those here in person actually, you all would know we'd be having a social this afternoon. It's been a while since we had a AY social right after as well. Of course, so we'll have the social right here in D'Abadie SDA Church. I know that many of us will be familiar, of course, but if you'd like to have the location, you're someone who may not be familiar with Malonia and D'Abadie churches, of course, it can be found online, and you could just use the Google Maps to get to the church, of course. We also have the third part to the series coming up next week, and it will be on, of course, this month is Family Matters. It will be on children. So last week, we talked about family priorities. This week, as our wonderful host and panelists would have spoken about finances, and next week we'll speak about children as well. And then, of course, we have June's programs coming up as well. So, once again, Monday and Wednesday night services continue. Yes, and it will be for both Malonia and D'Abadie churches at respective times, and you can check the church chat for those links as well. Church service next week, we'll have church service at D'Abadie Church, as you'll be having the elders ordination as well. At this point in time, I'd like to say the closing prayer for this evening, and then of course we can stay and we can hear the lovely song that will be coming thereafter. So bow, let's close our eyes. O dear ever-loving Father, thank you for giving us life, health, and strength. Thank you for carrying us through yet another Sabbath. Please help us to continue and go throughout this week to spread your message. Please help us to take these counsels that we have gotten from our panel this afternoon on family finances, and even those who may be single at this point in time, even those who may be looking at this point in time, even those who may need it out of the context of maybe that family or that relationship. I hope that it would benefit them, and you would continue to guide them in all the things that they do and all the investments that they may make in the savings, etc. Of course, we were given everything that we have by you, and please help us to continue to be good stewards of yours. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Of course, guys, you could continue. You could listen to the special music that will be coming up thereafter. Thank you once again.
There is a blood that cost a life, that paid my way, death its price. When it flowed down from the cross, my sins were gone, my sins forgot. There is a grave that tried to hide this precious blood that gave me life. But in 3 days he breathed again and rose to stand in my defense. So I've come to tell you he's alive, to tell you that he tries every tear that falls.
There is a blood that sights the blind, that heals the sick, the lowly